Hey guys, it's Israel back again with Heavy Metal Reptiles, take 3 on the whole video because I didn't have the microphone plugged in and I kept screwing up, so yeah. Um, Today we got Silent Bob out. I actually wanted to have the Sunbeam Snakes out, but it's kind of like a critical day because it's Sherry hasn't been eaten, which is the female I got, and Rob has only eaten once since I've had him. And they've got mice in with them right now. Don't yell at me if you're not supervising the live feedings because most of the time people don't supervise their live feedings with sunbeams because they eat through the night. Fun fact, it is dangerous, but you kind of got to learn to do what you got to do. Personally, I check in about every 10 minutes until I pull the mouse out. I usually will stay up for hours to give them the opportunity to eat and come out from their burrows. Rob Zombie, probably how long since I put the mice in there? It's probably been 10 minutes, so Rob Zombie's probably already eaten. Hopefully, if he's hungry, it don't take him much time to come out and get his food. Sherry, like I said, she hasn't eaten for me yet, so I don't know how long it's going to take her if she does eat for me today. So, fingers crossed and hope for the best. But, anyways, today we're going to talk about 5 things to watch for in your enclosures with your reptiles. And they're just kind of my opinion, stuff that I've heard people talk about and seen on Facebook pages and Reddits and things about what people are curious that they need to be looking for. Or stuff that they don't understand why it's there and they're asking the question, so I'll make a video. So we'll go ahead and move into number 1. So number 1 will be mold, and mold made the list as number 1 because I think it's something that not a lot of people really think about right off the rip when it comes to owning reptiles, especially like your high humidity reptiles, ball pythons, blue tongue skinks, pretty much all your tropical type animals that require anything over 70% humidity. There's the opportunity for mold. We just had a mold outbreak in Lila's cage, our blue tongue skink. She had mold all over her hides. I did a quick fix with it, which you can do, but it's just a band-aid to the problem. I sanded down her wood hides, baked them, put them back in to get us by for the week, and then that weekend I went and started hunting them down because for some reason right now in our area it's impossible to find supplies for some reason. Everything has to be offline, so but I didn't want to wait that long. Usually it takes 4 or 5 days for it to get here when I only had 2 or 3 days I had to wait. So, but we got those all switched out and got her back in a good enclosure or mold-free enclosure. But it's something that not a lot of people think about, especially when they're looking at these higher humidity animals. Anytime you have that type of moisture in wood, there's that opportunity, or pretty much anything, even the fake plants I've seen mold on before. So just something to keep in mind and watch, keep an eye out. Like I've talked before about sitting and just watching your reptiles in their cages. That's something you can be looking for. I do check almost daily. Baphomet just lost a stick the other day because it was one that I had baked from outside and put in with them, and it had mold on it. So there are ways to kind of prevent or help prevent that, but nothing's really a 100% guarantee. If you guys want, I can do a video on that, just some tips and tricks of probably a couple different things that I do with my reptiles to avoid certain things. If you guys are interested, you can comment and let me know. But we'll move on to number 2. So bugs and insects. It's not common, but is possible. I think forced floor was the ones that ended up with mites in their bedding at one point. So it is possible for you to carry in bugs, insects, and what I would consider pests to reptile life. But mites are a big thing. You get them in your collection, and it costs a lot of money. I've had them and had to get rid of them once already. It's really nothing. People will say, well, you're not taking care of your reptile. Everybody that collects reptiles will come across mites at least once. It's not uncommon. You can pick them up anywhere. It's like right now I'm holding Silent Bob, but we were at a reptile show this morning, so I had to come home and wash my hands and everything before I started feeding animals. I mean, just that right there can spread mites. Just one touch from another animal to coming home and touching your animals can spread them. I've also heard of people putting their corn snakes and king snakes into brumation and putting them by drafty windows to cool down their temperatures to mimic the hibernation and them getting mites. So that's just something to think about. You can sometimes see those in like the water dish and things, but you've also got different insects and things that can come in through hides and vegetation and things you might use in the enclosures, and it's just something to watch out for. There's some things, insects and bugs, that can be dangerous to your snakes. Like I said, just something to watch out for. It's not going to be very often that you come across anything that is serious, but it is possible and something you want to keep your eye out on. So, go ahead and move on to number 3. So, number 3, it's sad that I have to go over this, but there are those people. Pointy and sharp objects. You should always be aware of pointy and sharp objects in your enclosure. Especially like for me, I'm not against at all going outside and getting a stick and baking it and putting it in the enclosure. When I do it, I go out and I chop the stick up myself and take off all the sharp and things like that. I've even sanded them before baking them and done things like that. You can get things with sharp pointy edges on them from your local pet stores. It happens all the time. You just got to be aware and know what you're putting in your snake's enclosure or your lizard's enclosure or whatever. Along with knowing your animal as far as if they chew or not, they can create those sharp and pointy places. And it doesn't seem like much necessarily, but all it takes is the right way of them rubbing up against it or something to really cut into them. So, just something to keep in mind and watch for in your enclosures in general. Well, hello. I love the snake. Oh, you look at my eye. You look at my eye. There you go. Wet substrate. That's what I was going to. It is important for you to know and physically feel, or at least visually see, how wet your substrate is. For it can cause things like scale rot, mouth rot, and numerous others. For blue-tongued skinks, actually, which is what we think was wrong with Lilith, but we think it was because of her humidifier, not because of her substrate. It can cause water pouches, right? Water pouches, water cysts, something like that is what it's called, under the skin, where it's like a boil, and it pretty much has to be popped, or it pops on its own. It can go one of two ways. We treated it like an infection, and it pulled it out, which was really nice, and that's pretty much what it is an infection. But just something there to watch out for also, because it seems so harmless to have a little more moist substrate to be achieving your humidity, but there's ways to achieve the humidity without wet substrate. Like easiest example is putting your water bowl on the hot side of the enclosure, which will cause it to evaporate. I do recommend, if you're going to do that, and it's the soaking bowl also, to put a small water bowl on the cool side for them just to simply drink out of. It doesn't have to be anything big, and that's if you're doing hot and cold sides. If you're doing residual heat, just go for it. Throw a water bowl in there and call it a day. So, but if you're doing residual heat too, you need to be monitoring your humidity within the enclosures also, and making sure that your humidity is staying the same without you smoke or soaking down that substrate, because it's still a problem. When I do ambient temperatures and things, I actually set the humidity to the whole room also, just to help out the enclosures. Obviously the room's going to be a little lower percentage wise in the humidity, but the enclosures will be up to where it needs to be just by keeping the room a little higher in humidity. So yeah, next one. So this last one's just broad. Any possible hazards. I see enclosures on Facebook and things where they have hanging stuff. I'm not knocking on anybody's enclosures. I don't see anything wrong with any type of hanging features. But know what you're hanging. You know, if it were to fall, the crested geckos all the time, their vines are falling and things. Is it gonna fall on the snake? If it does, will it hurt the snake? For your lizards, if they are on it and it falls, is it too high? Will it hurt them if it falls? Just things like that to keep in mind. And if you think there is a possibility for like your crested gecko, or if you're lucky enough to have a lychee, because lychees they weigh a lot more than a crested, and you think that there's a chance or a possibility that whatever in the enclosure could fall, I'm not above super gluing. I ain't even gonna lie, I've super glued things with my wife's rats before into their enclosures. Obviously, I probably wouldn't use super glue for your reptile. I would try and find a different type of adhesive, and then make sure that it's not overlapping outside of whatever you are putting on the enclosure, because if they rub up against it or something, you don't want them getting stuck to it. But anything to secure it down pretty much, and make sure that your snake, lizard, reptile, and whatever is going to be safe and not injured. So that's the last one. But I got kind of a surprise for you guys of something I did today that I don't know if I'm proud of yet. So, yeah. So as part of my outro thing, what I said about something I don't know if I'm proud of, it's pretty cool. I'm going to put a picture in here somewhere, or my wife will. We ended up with a bunny today. It's a white, what's the name of that?
What?
The white bunny.
I don't know, I think it's an Angora.
It's like an Angora bunny or something. I don't know. I'm not into rabbits. But then we ended up at the local pet store, and I ended up rescuing another one. Like I said, put a picture, or a couple pictures maybe, or whatever we have when we upload of the bunny. It's actually got its head cocked sideways, and it can't move it. Its head is completely turned. They said that he might be able to fix it if we put a brace on it. And the vets I've talked to said the same thing, but there's nothing that's guaranteed, and it's going to cause him to be uncomfortable for like a year or two, him having this brace on it. So I just don't think it's necessary. He has a couple special feeding and drinking stuff we have to do with him. He's adorable though. I walked in, they said they needed someone to take him, and the owner of the pet store was like, well, he rescues animals all the time. I'm like, whoa, I only do scaly, no-legged, or legs and tails. That's it. No furry legs, just scales and legs. And I ended up with it because it was adorable, and God only knows what they would have done to it if no one took it. I don't think anything bad, but yeah, ended up with a bunny. Love it though, it's kind of cool. But yeah, with that being said, like I said, this was some of my opinion stuff. If you could hear that was the bunnies. This is just some of my opinion stuff I've seen online and stuff that I feel like you guys would benefit, just for stuff to watch out for and kind of a reasoning behind, why to look out for them. It's sad that you kind of have to put some of this stuff in there, but people are buying snakes every day and lizards every day that don't realize how much they really got to pay attention. It's like my wife's dad once. It's like my wife's dad thinks that you buy a reptile because you don't want to take care of an animal, or you just want to be able to throw it to the side and deal with it when you want to. And it's not like that when it comes to buying these guys. So, well, I guess that's it. So, follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. All the links should be in the description, or the page description. It's in something on here. I think it's the page description she puts them in. If it's not in the video description, go to the page description. And like and subscribe. Like I said, let me know videos you guys want to see, content and things that you guys want me to make. So yeah, rock on, friends. I'll see you in the next video.